Hi everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Spotlight. I'm particularly excited about today because we have singer, songwriter and producer Zanda Traut in the studio today. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right, Zanda, where are you from?
I'm from Welkom in the Free State.
That's interesting. So did you grow up there, and for how long did you stay there?
Yes, I was there for my whole school life, primary and high school. And from there I went to Pretoria to study.
All right, so what exactly did you study?
I did education, foundation phase. I actually wanted to do music therapy. So I did psychology as a main subject as well as music education. But in that time, I started a band called Southern Soul, and then I entered the music industry, actually.
That's very cool. How did Southern Soul get together, and how did you guys start that whole movement?
Well, me and this girl called Marlene, she was with me in Res and in Arena, and we did all the serenades and the singing at Res's and played guitar and formed the band. And then we realized, oh well, our voices sound really good together, and we did all these flea markets, the Hatfield flea market. I don't even know if it's still happening. But basically, we just opened our guitars, and people that walked past threw money inside, and we were like, oh, we can make money out of this. And then we just started phoning up people and finding out where can we do some live shows. And I knew somebody who was in the industry at that time who was doing well, Devil Dippenaar. And he said, cool, come open for us. And so we did the Maloney's at that time when it was open. And then that's how it all started, the live performing.
If I look back at it now, you started as an educationalist. How did you get into the music industry?
Well, it was with this band Southern Soul. We actually really had a good thing going, and people picked up on it, and they really liked it. And we both were songwriters. So I wrote my own songs, and Marlene wrote her songs, and we collaborated. And then we met Sean Manley at Musica. His wife was working there as well, and she introduced us to him, and he said, cool, come and see the studio, let's see what we can do. And and that's how I met Sean Manley, whom I've been working with for 15 years now.
I see you're currently a producer at Manley Studios as well.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that and the life of being a producer and a mom at the same time and all that.
Well, I was also wondering if I should go back as far as when we now met Sean and we got together to figure out what we would do with our band Southern Soul sound-wise. And so I was very interested in the process of recording. As when I was a kid, my dad had a little recorder, and I used to record little songs, or my voice or my brother's voices or whatever. So it's always been something I've been interested in. So when we started hanging out with Sean, I asked him if I could just sit around and see the process, because I was studying, so I had a lot of open hours that I could just go and see what's happening in the studio before we start to record. And Klopjach was the band we were recording at that stage. Sean was recording them, and I was just making snackages and bringing them coffee and tea and just literally watching what was happening. And Sean just ended up telling me, oh, can't you just quickly push this button? I just have to go and mic this up, or I have to go and do this. Just let's test it. And I was like the person that was available. And then we just realized that we work really well together. And I hopefully had really good ideas, and he thought that I would be a good fit to help him in the studio, and it hasn't stopped.
I see. I take a look at the sort of attitude that you had. Explain a little bit more for that 16-year-old kid sitting there in front of the mirror that doesn't really believe in him or herself. What sort of advice would you give that person, and how did you actually improve your odds of becoming more successful in the music industry?
Yes, well, it's really up to attitude. Talent is a big thing, but it's not always enough. So I think if you come in with a good attitude and people appreciate that, especially I'm a girl and it's a guy's world. I've been
You said girls can't do
yes,
sound
yes,
engineering
and the
production.
thing was, I really didn't know anything about recording. Sean really taught me absolutely everything, and until today, I'm still learning. I'm not that interested in miking up and doing the sound engineering part as what I am really into doing the creative part and doing starting with songwriting and taking the song from there to the production, pre-production and the arrangements. And then Sean obviously takes it further into mixing and getting it into the final product. That's what I'm mostly interested in. And if you have a good attitude, other people do see that, and then they do tend to ask you to be part of their projects, as well as famous people appreciating that you have a good attitude.
Okay, cool. I see you're expecting a baby.
Yes.
Is it a him or a her? Or a
It's our third little boy.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I have another. My oldest son is 5, and then I have another one who's 4. And then this one will be obviously born soon on the 9th of October. So it's quite interesting being a mommy for boys.
Having 3 boys, I can imagine that house. But I'm sure that you'll be able to deal with that, no sweat. And I was just also, looking back, the future generation, of sound engineers and producers, especially girls out there. What would you say to girls? What sort of advice would you give them to be able to make an impact in the multimedia industry of today?
I do think it's challenging, but if your passion is there, nothing can stop you really. You have to just have the confidence to believe in who you are and work at it. If there's something that you're worried about or feel insecure about, you just really just go into it and figure it out and meet people and speak to the right people that can help you if you can't help yourself. It's you can't stop learning no matter how old you are. Girls shouldn't be afraid. I think it's a really interesting platform and industry to be in. It's actually really mind-blowing, some of the things that you experience. Like I'm mostly into vocal productions, and I think you have to have the right personality for that kind of thing, because the person comes in, they might have their own insecurities or things that they're worried about, and you have to be behind that screen and let them feel comfortable. And it's not just any personality that can do that. You have to really get into that person's space and make them feel good about themselves and let them be themselves, because then you get the best vocal tech. And in the end, yes, there's a lot of production you can put into things, but if the vocal doesn't come through meaningful, I don't think a song will sell as well. So for me, I think if you're a girl and you're into that, I think we're good at making people feel comfortable.
Because I see this discrepancy between being a natural at something and then the technical, abilities and the sort of knowledge. There's certain things and facts that you just have to go and study up, and you just have to, put in the hours to know those things. How would you say is the best way to balance your time between, having a family and at the same time also, spending time working on your businesses, working on your projects and all these things that happen at once? How would you better spend your time?
Well, it's a balancing act. It is hard as a mother to try and be in the music industry, as well as, I think if you're a man and you're the main financial provider, you sort of have to go the next extent, working late hours, working whenever you can, taking on a lot of projects and things where I have a little bit of a freedom. My husband is a blessing and helps me, and he accepts my life and things that I have to do for the music, because it can consume you. But I just have to play a balancing act. I'm lucky enough that I am experienced enough now to know what is important and what I can leave and what I can't. So for me, I just try to, when I get home, I actually switch off from the music. I don't like go into listening to songs. Oh, what's that bass doing? What's that drums doing? What's that happening? I just literally, then it's family time. Sure. It takes a while to get there, but you do end up being able to work a certain amount of hours and put all of that energy into that, and then switching off and spending time with your family.
Right, everyone, if you didn't know yet, Zanda's been working with some of the biggest artists in South Africa. Some guys like, you might know Robbie Wessels, people like SPOTLiGHT, and she's been actively involved in probably almost every song that you've heard on radio. Explain to us a little bit more about what goes on in studio every day and how you guys operate.
Yes, well, it's a blessing that we've worked with so many great names, especially in the Afrikaans industry. And when it started booming, that was luckily when we were part of that. It's the process is just basically they come and they bring their songs, and we workshop them a little bit, see if they're strong enough, and then from there we lay down the bass or the drums or whichever if we feel the song needs first.
We usually start like, is it always bass or drums?
No, it depends on what the song wants. You really have to sit and listen. What is
so
the song?
Basically, just
want?
a click to start a song.
Yes, and also maybe sometimes the way they wrote it originally, because sometimes you would get a track that somebody sort of put stuff in, and it's not always. I always feel like if you just have the piano and the vocal or the guitar and the vocal, you can hear the direction where it should go, and then you just add things to make the song better. You don't just add what you think will work.
Okay.
So it's a quite a psychological thing to listen to what does the song want, and if the song is there a structure problem, is there a rhythmical problem, or sometimes you feel there's just something wrong, and you have to try and figure out what that is by the basic form of a song. Sometimes that's the easiest way that's the way I approach.
So how long do you guys generally work on an album for? Is it a very long time, or do you guys just squeeze it in?
No, it all depends. If it's a record label, then they have a deadline and you squeeze it in.
Okay, I see. How long does squeeze it in mean? 3 weeks?
Yeah, if it's an album, sometimes the artist is okay with doing the whole process of taking a long time. We worked with Traut on his album, and I think I was with my second child. I was almost pregnant, and then
busy woman.
And literally the whole 9 months we recorded his guitars and everything that was going with the album, and I actually had my son, and he was still busy, and he finished I think just a few months after that. And so sometimes it takes long, sometimes it's a quick process. It depends on the artist and what they want to accomplish and what their goal is and what the record label wants.
Yeah, sure. I heard earlier you said that you wrote, I don't know if you guys know Leeuwloop, it's Robbie Wessels' probably his biggest song ever, but you wrote the piece in Leeuwloop. Which part was that again?
No, I actually didn't. I didn't write any
write
of that
any
album.
Of that.
No,
okay.
That album was all his. I just sang backing vocals.
All right.
And I helped record the album.
Oh, okay.
So, but I did write with Robbie on his Afrika Sonsak album the one after Coldfoot. I helped him write some of his ballads and just help with the structure.
Now I get where the connection was made there. I also saw you were making albums in 2009 at Manly Studios as well. What sort of vibe were you guys going for then? And
for my own albums.
Yeah, how have you guys changed since then?
Well, when we did Southern Soul, we were like a Simon Garfunkel kind of folky band, but with girls.
All right.
So we did harmonizing all over the place. We really loved that. Further than that, our band broke up, and Marlene has moved to New Zealand, and since then I played for Robbie Wessels. I played guitar for him and sang backing vocals and played piano for 2.5 years. And
you guys, that's pretty badass. If you play guitar for Robbie Wessels, I mean, Have you ever
touring
heard
with
this
five
one?
or
That was really,
between
really
5 and
interesting.
7 guys in a bus the whole time. But it's I'm cool with that. I've always been cool with having guy friends, and I have 2 brothers. I grew up as a tomboy, so it was fun.
So at Manly Studios, what is your main role there?
Well, for me at the moment, I'm basically help with the songwriting, and I co-write with artists. So if they come and they don't have any songs, or they do have songs, I sit with them and we workshop them up to a point where we feel okay, it's ready to be recorded. For me, that is probably the fun process, and I love doing that.
Yeah.
The artist that I'm working with at the moment is Choose Emendy, and her album's coming out soon. And I worked with SPOTLiGHT, and the newest one, which will probably only be released next year, will be SPOTLiGHT. So I'm very excited about their projects.
Awesome. I think if you could just maybe also elaborate a little bit on what co-writing is, and how you guys usually do that, and
Okay.
yeah.
Well, co-writing it's quite a thing. You have to trust the person you are co-writing with. So for me, it's very important to really gain the trust of the artist, so that they don't feel that I'm changing them or changing what they're trying to say. I'm just trying to help them to develop it to a point where if they perform it, that the person doesn't find their burger more interesting than their song. So the goal for me is really just to work with them to a point, get to know them where they can feel they can be honest. Sometimes the songs are about quite deep and personal things, and they need to know that they can trust that I'm not going to be running around telling people these things. So you have to find somebody you trust, and co-writing is a process. It doesn't just happen. Sometimes it could probably just happen if you click well, but it takes a while. It takes 1 or 2 or 3 songs when you get to a point, okay, now we're on the same page, now we can fill in spots, or I can say something stupid and you can just come from, oh, okay, I hear what you're saying, but maybe let's go this way, or especially lyric wise, to try and write the story. It's not just, it doesn't just happen. It takes a while.
Right. In the past few years, what would you say would be your proudest accomplishments, and why?
Well, for me, I think my biggest love is to write songs, and actually the biggest accomplishment for me was to write songs for somebody else. I think it's really hard to get into that psychology of putting words into somebody else's mouth and letting them be able to convey that to the masses. I think the day I realized, okay, I can actually write songs for other people as well, and they can make it their own. That was a good accomplishment for me. Then secondly, also, I had the great opportunity to work with Alan Roy Scott, who is a staff writer for EMI and Motown and those for 30 years, and I had an opportunity to visit him in Los Angeles and work with him and write with him, as well as meet a lot of his co-workers. That was a big thing for me. And the third one was to actually get him to South Africa to come and do workshops at Manly Recording Studios, which was mind-blowing. I think everyone that was there, they learned so much and just realized the world is not as big as you think. You can actually reach out to other people and try and see if they can educate you. For me, I felt that I had hit a plateau and I needed somebody to help me to just get my 7 out of 10 songwriting to a 9 or a 10, and he was my to-go-to person. And yes, I'm very proud of the songs that am writing at the moment now. So that's probably what I feel is my accomplishments at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to know one thing as well. When you write songs, what's your creative process, and sort of what influences you?
Well, I used to, when I was younger, I used to just come up with inspiration. So you actually have a heart broken and then you're like, oh, I have to vent about that. But at the moment, it's very more like business-wise. I get up and I start from 8 to 1. That's about as much time I have to do music. and I've just taught myself how to write. I don't care if I start with the lyrics or the melody or with the track that's existing. I'd do anything just to get something out, because you have to really try and write every day sometimes to get rid of the crap songs, if I'm allowed to say that, to get to the good stuff. You have to get out all the
most definitely.
Yeah, the most the essence lies in when you've gotten past that.
Yeah, it's obviously when you go through the process, you get one idea, and then you go through a whole bunch of other stuff, and then eventually you get another idea, and you get another idea, and when you add up all the good ideas, you end up with award-winning songs and things that go really far.
I'm still working on that one.
You're still working on that one?
Yes.
Cool. So how can we get hold of you online, and how can we get hold of some of the artists you've been working for? And
well, all of them are, I have a website. It's called Zanda Traut Songwriter.
All right, Zanda Traut, the spelling would be
Traut.
A-U-T, not like the fish. Okay, cool.
And Zanda is just Z-A-N-D-A. And then obviously Facebook is Zanda Traut, and then there's on Messenger, and they can email me as well. All my details are there.
Great. Right, that's a wrap for this week's show. Thank you very much for coming in, Zanda.
Pleasure, thank you.
Guys, if you want to see more of Zanda online, the links will be in the description below. If you're interested in starting your career in multimedia in South Africa, please go check out our brand new ebook. It's free. The link will be attached in the description below. Have a great week ahead.